Hello there, you're listening and watching to another Scoutcast from www.fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, and my name is Mark.
My name's Granville.
My name's John T.
My name's Andy.
Good evening, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you and everyone listening, all 3 or 4 of you. It's another Scoutcast, the first one of 2017. It's great to be back. I'm invigorated after the break, the FA Cup break this time, which is almost as bad as an international break, but a teeny-weeny bit more interesting. We got a lot to cover tonight, haven't we, John T? What's on the agenda?
Well, yeah, we're gonna go over our festive fixtures. So we packaged them up as a lump.
Game week bumper edition.
3 game week bumper edition. We've got lots of community questions. Formation 3-5-2, very popular area to chat about. We're gonna look at loads of key players that people are considering getting in. Giroud, Ali, Hazard, Aguero even, but penalty-less Aguero even. And also have a really good look ahead to Game Week 21.
Game Week 21 already over the halfway point. We're into the second half of the season. Big news this week, let's touch on this straight away, is a new leader, top of the half.
Yeah, we have. There's a chap called Villaronca who has been at the top of our Hall of Fame since 2013-14 season, so that goes back quite a way. For the first time since then, we have a new leader, a chap called Jay Eggersdorf, and he's had lots and lots of consistent scores. I think he's had about 7 top 5,000 finishes.
I looked at it; it's quite extraordinary. I mean, it's up there. Obviously, the algorithm says it's a stronger finishes now than even Villaronca. Extraordinary. And he's having a good season.
He's having a good season. There's an interview on site. I do urge people to have a look at that, in which he gives us some of his top tips and an insight into his strategies. And for particularly on formation, when we come to talk about formations, I'll read out a couple of his quotes actually, which I think are quite telling. About,
I've got to say, Jonty, when I read the interview, it was like listening to you back in 2013-14.
Yeah,
new Jonty's like he's forgotten it all, and you admitted that yourself.
I admit it. When I did the interview, I was reading it back, and I did. I just thought it's so simple what he's saying about succeeding in Fantasy Premier League. And pretty much everything he'd said, I'd forgotten for the last year.
And it's all coming back to us now.
It's all coming back to me now, and it's actually very, very simple to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's look at our game weeks though over the Christmas period. It wasn't bad, was it? I didn't realise that John T's calculated the average was 148. Granville, we all beat that. You got to be pretty pleased with your Christmas, were you?
Yeah. The first 2 weeks I was really pleased because I got for a start I managed to get inside the top 1 million. I had my 2 best weeks, and then the last week really let me down. I made a couple of mistakes with I got Phillips in, but I made a mistake with my second transfer.
Okay, well, let's dwell on that. Let's talk about the stuff you did really well. Let's pick apart the mistakes you made. Go into detail on those.
Glass half empty as usual. Yeah, well, I can talk about the mistakes and then talk about the good stuff.
All right.
My mistake really was getting Bellerin in. I've had this problem with my expensive. Second expensive defender the last 3 weeks. A few weeks ago, Walker got suspended, and I thought I'm not going to hang on to him. I might as well switch him. So I switched him to Van Dijk. He then gets sent off. So this week I thought I'm going to sit on Van Dijk till the 14th of January. We're going to make the change now. I just figured that I've got a choice. I can either switch Carroll or switch Van Dijk. And I knew I wanted an Arsenal player because I'd already sold Walcott. And my choice was Carroll to Giroud or Van Dijk to Bellerin. And I got it wrong. And it cost me 15 points.
I don't know. I think Bellerin going forward. I mean, obviously Giroud, we'll talk about him later on.
He's injured now, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think he's going to come back. I mean, the talk is that he's going to be fine for the coming weeks. I think in the next 3 or 4 weeks, you've got a good player there because the home fixtures are good. I know Arsenal can't be relied upon for clean sheets, but I think you'll be all right.
It's still losing out on those points when I was dangling my finger over Giroud for all that morning, and I didn't do it. I'm really disappointed. But at the same time, Bellerin can make the point. And the thing is with Giroud is that you don't know when he's going to then be rested again because I think when all the players are back, I not sure that he's quite as nailed on as people think. And I think maybe with Sanchez, I think he's not as effective out on that wing. I think Wenger prefers him down the middle.
But we do like
feeling the
Giroud's
rest.
little classy celebrations. We're going to miss those if he's on the bench. Certainly Sanchez will as well, while he's busily running the ball back to the centre spot. And
what went right was Phillips getting in.
Yes.
Phillips this week, like a lot of people did, except I think you didn't get him in, did you?
No, I've spurned him basically. I look at the fixture at Spurs and think I can leave it for another couple of weeks, but no, I've avoided Phillips till now. To be fair, I've looked at the stats and he has been I think he's had 18 chances, or he set up 18 chances and got 7 assists from that. That's a good conversion rate of chances to assists. I just wonder whether he can keep it up.
That's what you're saying.
I don't know. He's been on set pieces and West Brom are very effective at those. He's taken a lot more of those than I expected, to be fair. I thought Brunt would be taking more corners. He seems to be sharing them with Brunt, so he has surprised me. And he may come in for me, but I think I can hold firm. But yeah, good call for you. Phillips did a job. Andy,
the other thing I have to let me finish.
I have to keep talking about what Granville's done right. I probably won't take long.
It's a new year. Give me space. I kept Harry Kane, which proved to be pretty good because he scored the goals and 2 assists, I think, at the week before.
He went mad at Watford. Well, no, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, it
didn't really make it. It was just cancelled out by the fact that Ericsson, who is the cover for Kane, went mad in the last game. So there you go. So I've done all right with him. And then Ibrahimovic, who everyone got in, has served us well this far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, enough of what Granville's done well. Andy, you beat him by a point. You beat Granville, even though he did all that perfectly correctly. Andy, you still got one more point than him. Tell the story of your Christmas.
Yeah, I did beat the average, but it didn't actually turn out that good. I just checked the 3 weeks since we've been off. I've actually fallen 50,000 places, even though I've beaten the average. I've gone from 375 to 425, and that's actually back where I was in game week 14.
So why was that then? Are you looking at Mkhitaryan and Benteke as punts that didn't work out? Basically?
No, the mistake, and he's been like a thorn on my side all season. I bought Theo Walcott in 3 times this season, and to fund him, I took out Kane for Benteke, and we just know Benteke's obviously done nothing. Kane wasn't a rage transfer, I don't think, but the fact that he did nothing against Burnley and Hull kind of, was enough for me to get rid, which obviously didn't work out. And then Walcott's getting an injury out of seemingly nowhere. We didn't know about it until the weekend. So yeah, and then I thought, sorry, I'll get Mkhitaryan for Middlesbrough at home, and he didn't do anything. He was unlucky not to get an assist or 2 in one of the matches over Chris. Can't remember which one. So that didn't work out. I captained Ibra every game, which was good. Got 56 points for him, but I think a lot of people did that. So yeah, it was okay Christmas, but I have dropped, so not the best. And Walcott
but 50,000 places. I mean, the thing is, I've gone through many game weeks where I've dropped 10,000 here, 10,000 there, gradually drop.
Points are quite close, I think.
And then you have a couple of good ones. It's very difficult. As long as you're not dropping 500,000 places, then I think you can claw back 50,000 very, very easily indeed. Jonty, your Christmas, how did it go? I mean, Phillips was on your menu, wasn't he? And he did well for you.
Yeah. That's. I mean, basically, it was every week was a bit above average. There was one week I think I was just below by a couple of points average. So I mean, it was slowly but surely, really. I got some points from captains. Ibrahimovic, Sanchez, those types of captains. Costa in. So these are kind of steady, reliable scorers. Phillips, obviously, I got in. Daniels, who I've had for absolutely ages, and now everyone's getting him. So I had a bit of mixed fortunes with him. I played him for his first double-digit haul, which was great, and then benched him against Arsenal because I thought Bournemouth would concede, which indeed they did, but I didn't anticipate Daniels getting a goal and an assist in that game. Yeah. But, nevertheless, I've got him in. I've got him in for all the price rises. And he's up to third best defender in Fantasy Premier League.
Done very well.
Have you finally put him on the site's watch list?
He is on there because Aki dropped. I mean, to be fair, Aki
begrudgingly put Daniels on there. Third best defender.
And then I was thinking of Adam Spieth. It was a touch and go because Aki was about in that Bournemouth squad for 4-4. I think Daniels was too much for a stretch, and I still think 5-2 for a Bournemouth defender. I'm still balking at that a little bit. To be honest.
5 million when I got him.
Yeah, no, very good insight, but I foresight, but I don't know. I still work. They've got good fixtures though, and he's good going forward. And I think in the current market, where there's a shortage of reliable heavy hitters, perhaps, then with Chelsea.
Yeah, I think he's in a group which we'll come to when we talk about defenders. Including the likes of Chris Brunt, which are kind of scoring They've got a multitude of areas they can score and get assists and goals and clean sheets. These are great players to have. So yeah, he's not going anywhere from my team for a while. But yeah, all in all, actually not a bad Christmas. Yeah,
no, not bad. Well, I had a good one indeed. 193. So I had a top 250,000 finish and a top 130,000 finish. So I've gone up to my highest rank of the season now. After a load of, I had basically 5 red arrows in 7, I think, and then I've had a good run now. So I'm in a good position. It was one of those situations where, like you go off at half time, you don't want half time. I feel like that now. I didn't want an FA Cup break, so I had a bit of momentum. And now, I'm going back into it a little bit cold, and I wonder whether I've rushed my transfers. More on that later. But yeah, Ericsson did very well for me, and Defoe has just been an incredible player for me. I've managed to keep him, even though he had a dry spell. There was other things to do. I've got to admit, I was all for transferring him out. I was looking at options, but I had other fires to put out, and that's led me to keeping Defoe more probably out of luck than judgment. I admit that, but he's done brilliantly for me. And him and Ibra, I would say, is probably, if you're going to have 2 up front, is a good setup because of the money you save. And at the moment, Ibra's matching Costa, and Defoe is coming in at least, tallying just that second tier below that and doing very well. So I'm very happy at the moment with my team. Whether I've made the right moves, we'll talk about that later when we touch on some of the players raised by the community questions. One of the reasons why I've done well, I think, is down to 352, and we've had a lot of questions on that, haven't we, Jonty?
We have, yeah. So Tizza asks, apart from Defoe, there's a lack of third strikers, as you've just been saying, but there's plenty of midfielders contributing. Is now the time for 352? Or do you have to pile money back into front? And Karen 14, same thing. Do we go 352 or invest in a third striker? In his team, like myself, he has Ibrahimovic and Costa. But he's thinking, well, who else do I get? Why don't I just go 352? So this is where I'm going to mention Jay Eggersdorf, who's top of the Hall of Fame. One of the reasons he's there, he wildcarded in game week 6 and went 352 with Diamande, the Hull striker, as a kind of a make-weight bench player, and just kept focusing on that defence, on midfield rather. And this is why he's done it. And when I read this out afterwards, you'll just go, it's so simple. Why haven't we all been doing this since way back then? So midfielders, this is what Jay says, midfielders have the highest number of ways to score points, and defenders can have points deducted for conceding goals. Simple. So on that basis, it makes sense to have the maximum amount of midfielders because they can score the maximum variety of points, and the minimum number of defenders because they get points conceded. Simple. Why haven't we been doing it? Another reason, and this is really key to this season, for deploying a 5-man midfield is that attacking teams such as Arsenal and Liverpool have been using midfielders as out-of-position strikers. So he's been playing 3-5-2, but he doesn't call it that. He actually calls it 3-3-4. So if you've got Sanchez and Firmino, for that period, you're actually playing 3-3-4. So you've got 2 of your forwards scoring extra. So I went on from that and I had a look at the team. So I wanted to see, he also goes on in his interview to talk about key players, players that are vital to a team. So I had a look at teams to see who is the highest scoring FPL player in each team. So midfielders are the highest scoring in 12 teams. So the bulk of the majority of teams, midfielders, not strikers, they're the best players to get. So we're talking Arsenal here, we're talking Palace, Hull, Liverpool, Man City, the best, not Aguero, Sterling and De Bruyne, they're the best ones. Spurs, Ali and Ericsson we know about. And then you go down to the smaller clubs, West Brom, West Ham, Watford, it's their midfielders that are dominating. Forwards, just 5. Now you mentioned Defoe there. So Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Manchester United, Everton, Chelsea. So basically, if you're looking at strikers who are being the best players in that team and are going to give you reliable points, the only options are Costa, Lukaku, Ibrahimovic, Negredo, and Defoe. That's your lot. If you've got anyone else, like I've got Benteke, forget it. And so this is why I think they're important. I just wanted to quickly mention before the rest of you join in, but in terms of Bournemouth and Southampton, they're unusual. Their top scorers are defenders. Southampton is Van Dijk and Bournemouth is Daniels. So they are the best players. If you're going to get a Bournemouth player for their run, Daniels. If you're going to get a Southampton player, when he's back from suspension, Van Dijk. And then, final mention, Burnley. Best player, goalkeeper, Heaton. There's no one else in Burnley worth getting.
Yeah, and I think one of the key factors behind this as well is we haven't had Aguero, and so therefore that is the major striker up front hasn't been there. Because if you look at it at the moment, you've got to look at Zlatan, and you've got to look at Costa. Kane has come in and out, and now because Eriksen and Ali are playing so well and they've got the form, suddenly we're kind of put off Kane a little bit, and I think that's understandable because, again, midfield options, they're cheaper and they're matching in for points right now. We haven't had players like Charlie Austin as well. You know, we haven't had players in that Romelu Lukaku bracket. So it's been a shortage of assets up front has also contributed to the fact, or one of the reasons why I went 3-5-2, because I looked at it and thought it seems that every other week there's a new midfielder to consider. And I just felt that with 5 slots to fill, I've got the advantage of being able to jump on bandwagons quickly, whereas people with 4 slots are going to be concerned about, I want to get Ali, but I don't want to take Lallana out, or I want to get Ali, but I don't want to take Hazard out. Whereas I've had 5 slots and it's been easier for me to make that decision, and I've been able to jump on bandwagons and either get price rises or get points. Like with Eriksen, I got points. I don't know if I'll get that from Ali. I might just have to make do with the price rise and sell him on. But I think having 5 has helped. But I think the lack of forwards has made it easier to come to that conclusion. And I think that's been a big thing. So, Granville, what's your views on this? I mean, you're still playing 3 up front, are you? Are you standing by that, or are you starting to waver now?
Well, I might be wavering, but I'm not sure I'm going to go 3-5-2. I think I have to get rid of Carroll because I don't think he's either starting on the bench or he's just not performing. I don't think the game's not set up for him at the minute. I think he's struggling. But then I look at replacements, and unless I go higher, more expensive player, I can't see anyone. And even if you go, for a cheaper player, they all seem to be injured or out. I mean, Inichibi's now out, so that's a no-go, I don't think. Austin is injured. Slimani is away at the African nations. Really, really struggling to see who to get. But
you can look at Peter Crouch, for example, 4-7.
Well, I did mention Peter Crouch, by the way, because I don't know if you saw it on. I thought he should have been in your scout picks a couple of weeks ago. I think it was last week when it was absolutely. He was playing against. Was he playing against Swansea? Who did he play? They scored last week against Watford. They had so many players out.
Yeah,
I'm really surprised that you missed it, and also the fact that they had 24 hours less rest time because they were playing 48 hours and Stoke had 72 hours. So I figured that Crouch should be one to have, and he actually delivered.
So why aren't you looking at someone like that then, and then free up funds and going 5 in midfield?
I can do. I'm just I am looking very much at Defoe. I mean, I have missed his price rises. I can afford to get him. But I'm now hampered again because if Bellerin's not fit, I'm struggling because Ake is now, he's not going to play. I very much doubt whether he's going to start. So I've lost a player because he's moved back to his club. And so I'd probably be forced once again to switch out another defender.
Okay.
So unless I spend the points, I'm probably, I might even just hold with what I've got, depending on who I've got, whether I've got any of these players coming back, because Ibrahimovic could be a doubt as well.
Yeah, I think he'll be all right. That was just a cup fever, wasn't it? I think he's going to be fine for Liverpool.
Yeah, so I just have to make sure that I've got enough players. If I've got enough players, then I could do the Crouch transfer. But I'd probably be looking at spending points here again.
So you're not tempted though. Do you not buy into this theory that because of the options in midfield, having 5 big hitters makes sense?
I've become comfortable, and it's a tactic that I don't normally use. I normally do rotation, but I've become comfortable with having Carrick there and knowing I could always put in third sub. And if I ever need him, he'll come on and give me a couple of points. But it's the cheapest playing midfielder. So I'm doing what you're doing with Anichebe. It's just what you're saying about having more choice of midfielders. I agree with that, but I'm sitting on Kane. There's no point in me switching to Eriksen now. I might as well just keep Kane, keep the price rise that I've got, and just.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's exactly what Jay's got. He's got Kane on his side, but he's got 2 big strikers in Diamandi, and he's got 5 across midfield. Now, one of those midfielders is Joe Allen, so he's not gone as expensive as myself in the midfield area. But I think I've gained from that. I think one of the reasons why I've climbed the ranks gradually is because I've had the option to jump on Eriksen, to jump on Ali. get on Lallana. Okay, Lallana's gone for me now, but I got on that, got some money out of it, got him out again, got a goal, got an assist out of it. It's just been able to give me that flexibility. Whereas up front, there's not been enough movement, I don't think. It's been 3 or 4 strikers and that's it. There hasn't been enough new players coming to the fore that you can jump on, get some points, get some price rises. But in midfield, that's what it's been about. Andy, your views on 3-5-2?
Yeah, I think I've taken a bit long to come around to the idea, but I'm going to switch to it this week, I think. It's just a simple case. Ever since Austin got injured, I think for most of us who go for like a cheap third striker, he was the option. As soon as he got injured, it's just been a pain in the ass. Like I've had 2 or 3 players since then who just have done nothing. So to me, up until Defoe, there's no striker I want to play every week. And he's 7.7 million. So for my team, third striker, I just can't do it. Whereas Matt Phillips, who's 5.8 million, is much better than all those cheaper strikers, I think, right now. Or maybe not Crouch or Barnes who are playing, but he's probably the better option at less money than, say, Carroll, who I've got right now. So, yeah, I got in Phillips for Capuy, so I'm basically changing. And like you said, there's so many midfield options that I want that I don't currently already have. Strikers, there just isn't that. I think Ibra's the main man right now. You have him and one other. Whether you go Kane and Costa or Defoe or whoever, then that's kind of up to you. But I just think right now 3-5-2 looks much better than 3-4-3. There's just so many more options.
And I got to say, I looked at it back when I played my wildcard, and I didn't have the balls to go with it then. I did actually look at the Amanda. Should I be doing this now with my wildcard this early? And I didn't do it. I come to that conclusion weeks later when I was forced to get Sanchez in, and the only way I could get Sanchez back after his West Ham haul was to go 3-5-2. So kind of that points haul at West Ham pushed me into it, because I thought to myself, I panicked. I've got to get Sanchez back. It's too strong. And the only way I could afford it was to go 3-5-2. I got rid of Aguero, got Anachibi in and got Sanchez in midfield. That was the only way I could do it. So again, it was a little fortunate, whereas Jay has calculated it way back, and I think that's why he's done so well. John, to your views on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Jay's saying. It's basically simple maths, really. If there's less forwards in the game, there's less productive forwards in the game, there's more midfielders, and midfielders get more points, and there's value there. I mean, I've got a 5-man midfield at the moment that I could play. I've just got Stanislas in. So I have Stanislas as well as Phillips. So I can play 5, but it's just a question of whether I want to play Benteke instead of Phillips as away to Spurs this week, for example. So I actually think Benteke might just have the edge there. But yeah, so in a way, I've already gone there, and I'm looking at getting rid of Benteke for someone like Barnes, I think. Actually, Barnes at Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, you've got yourself a dilemma, haven't you, at the moment? You've got yourself in that situation where you've got to choose Phillips or Benteke and hope that you get it right.
Well, yeah, there's that, but there's also the reason I did it is because I did that move. Stanislas was going up in price, but he's a player I wanted to get, and I kind of just did it because I just wanted to do that move, so I didn't have to think about it for the rest of the week. Really. It's just done. But the other reason is there's snow on the way this weekend, and Ibrahimovic is ill. Alonso might be. Basically, there could be a bench could be needed. So I don't. And so if a player, say Ibrahimovic, is ruled out on Friday afternoon press conference, well, I don't mind. I'll just play Phillips instead and Benteke. So going back to the points Jay was making, really, about kind of maximising the place, I don't really need to make a hit, hopefully. But yeah, I agree. I think 3-5-2, I feel like a fool for not doing it earlier. It's just basic maths, really.
So you're going to go Benteke to Barnes and free up more cash and then upgrade.
At some point. I've got a Sigurdsson. I'm going to play Sigurdsson this week. I think Arsenal are looking a little bit fragile at the back, as they showed against Bournemouth. And I think Sigurdsson might get something there. And I don't think it's worth spending hits to get rid of Sigurdsson. So I'm going to look at next week. And then I've got options. So Hazard is against Hull. Do I get Hazard in? Maybe. That's another thing I did over Christmas. So I got rid of Hazard to free up some money to give me options, which I now have, which is great. I could get Ali, could get Ericsson, could get all sorts of players, could get Sterling, Ross Barkley even. We'll come to some of his stats later. But yeah, it's options. And that's what you get. It's what you've just been talking about.
And this is it. It just seems every other week there's another name thrown up. Yeah. And they don't become essential, but they certainly, if you get them in, the very least you're going to get is a 0.1. You're going to, because they're going to go up 0.2 in the week, and you'll get a 0.1 price rise. I just think we're not seeing that. It's not as lively up front in terms of the market, in terms of the fluctuation. And so having 5 across the middle, I think, gives you that advantage. And I think that's why Jay's done so well. I think he's gotten it early enough, and all fair play to him. Grant, what you were going to say?
You still think though with Aguero that there always is a potential to kind of ruin this. That if Ibrahimovic stays fit and Aguero starts firing, how are you going to be able to resist getting him? And it's probably a bit similar to the situation I've got, that I don't have Sanchez, and I still haven't been tempted to get him in. Do you think that's the way that you're dealing with Aguero, that you never, even if he starts scoring 2 and 3 a game, that you're not going to get him in?
Well, we've got a question on Aguero and the City option. So let's address this now, because I've got some views on Aguero, and I'm sure Andy and Jonty have as well. Jonty, the questions on Aguero and City, Moyne and Timbo have asked about this.
Yes, yeah. I mean, simple things. Is going without Man City options risky? Atletico Timbo asks the same things. Well, similar thing about, is Aguero an option? And Cess points out that Aguero has seemingly lost penalties. For those that haven't spotted, during the FA Cup against West Ham, he handed the ball to Yaya Toure, and so Toure is now the #1 penalty taker. When he's not on the pitch, highly probable that De Bruyne is next in line, and then perhaps even Kolarov.
We don't know. I mean, so that is key. Aguero has given up penalties. We know, because Pep has come out previously and said,
it's up to the players.
I don't want to get involved. It's going to be down to the players. Aguero handed the ball to Toure. Toure has not missed a penalty in a top flight game, 14 out of 14, where Aguero has scored 18 of 21. So Toure has yet to miss a penalty in a competitive match. So clearly they've decided to swap, it seems.
I think that is, we don't know whether that's temporary. We don't know that's because he's missed a couple and he's thought, I'm just going to give it a break. I'll come back.
No.
I'll come back to it. We don't know if that's the rest of the season, forever. But for what we know, for the time being, Aguero has no penalties. He has earned a lot of penalties, so he could still get the assists for those. I mean, I've had Aguero once when he missed a penalty and got minus points, and I think a couple of other people have had him a couple of times for that. It's not nice. So I'd be much happier actually with Yaya Toure taking them and Aguero getting those safe 3 points. But yeah, their fixtures coming out. They got Everton away. That could go any way. They're without some key players because of African Cup of Nations duty. But then they Tottenham. That's tricky. But then it's West Ham away. I like the look of that. And then Swansea at home, and then Bournemouth away. So they are good fixtures from an attacking point of view. I was having a look at some of their basically what with Aguero coming back. So we know what happened when Aguero came back. He was benched. So cue massive bragging for those people who didn't have Aguero, and then massive humble pie eating when he comes on and looks incredible and scores. So in that game, he had the most, along with De Bruyne, who had more minutes. He had the most amount of goal attempts. Yeah. So does Aguero need penalties? Well, he's just a natural goal scorer. So, he did score from his only shot on target. He was only there for 45 minutes. Imagine a 90-minute Aguero. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It could be. For me, if I was thinking of a 3-5-2, then one, probably Costa would go to get Aguero in. That's something I may do. I don't know.
Yeah, but going back to Granville on this, I think, we've had doubts about Aguero all season. There is, with Pep, and you've got Gabriel Jesus coming in as now. Is he going to get any minutes at all? And is that going to lead to rotation? We've seen him rested, Aguero, and they got Champions League again, and they're going to go after Champions League because possibly by the time Champions League kicks in, they're going to be too far away from Chelsea and Spurs anyway. Yeah. So Aguero could ruin it. You're absolutely right, but every couple of weeks there seems to be another factor which makes us think, he's gone now. Not has been, you know what I mean?
Well, he's had a topsy-turvy season, hasn't he? You think that he's missed 7 games? I think it's 7 games.
Yeah, 6 game weeks, 7 matches. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 matches. Plus, he's been benched. He was benched last week. So he's not as reliable as he has been in the past. But if you needed to get a City player, if they were playing, say, Sunderland at home, I don't know if they've played them yet, although that fixture's to come. Would you be tempted? You'd be tempted to get a City player in. Which player would you get in? Because if you can't get Aguero, where else do you go? You
don't. I wouldn't pick someone just because City have got good fixtures.
So we don't do that anymore unless it's Aguero.
Well, I don't think City
no.
they're not going to win 3 or 4-0. Like we started the
didn't.
season like they were going to, but they're not doing it, are they?
Well, I think you get either Sterling or De Bruyne in because they're the top
Or even
scoring City players, or even Toure.
You can't really get De Bruyne though because it's too expensive. I mean,
well, as I said, if you got 3-5-2, you can.
But you can't. I could get. It's more expensive than any of your other midfielders.
I could get him in for Sigurdsson by downgrading Benteke next week. I mean, I don't want to, but I could do.
But going back to what Andy was saying, I don't think it's necessary, is it, Andy?
Yeah, no, I mean, Moen actually says, like, is it a risk going out of the players? Their players aren't that highly owned, and we're not really expecting them to do anything, so I don't see where the risk is, really.
I must admit, though, in previous seasons, when they've had those games, I mean, they played Burnley last week, and I didn't actually sit there thinking, I need to get a City player in.
Yeah,
this is the only time, I think, since I've been playing FPL, where I have absolutely no interest in Aguero right now. I would never say never, but right now, I just have no plans to get him in. I think he'd have to score a couple of hat-tricks in a row for me to consider him at the moment because he's so expensive. There's just seems something wrong with City this year, whatever it is, whether it's Pep or just, I don't know, all the new players they're bringing in. And I know that's going to come back to bite me, but I just have no interest in Aguero right now at all. There
is no doubt that Aguero will score lots of goals. He could win the Golden Boot, but is he going to score significantly more goals than Ibrahimovic and Costa to justify the 2 million or whatever the gap is now between those players? And without penalties, I don't think he can. I just don't see it happening, especially with Champions League rotation, Jesus as an option, and no penalties. It just seems to be stacked against him. He will have a couple of explosions.
I think I agree with you. I'm just, hypothetically, I think that if it came down to it, and he did score one hat trick, you'd be tempted because you've done it before. You did it with, Sanchez a few weeks ago when he got his hat trick.
Sanchez is something different though. He was a midfielder playing in attack and scoring a hat trick, whereas Aguero
and Firmino, I think that was another one as well where he scored highly in one of the games and everyone got him.
Yeah, because don't forget,
which is what they're going to do.
Firmino's only like 8.5 million though. Aguero's 12.8. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah, and also his goals are worth 2 points less. There's so many factors where Sanchez and Firmino have been better options when they've exploded points. They were cheaper. They were scoring 2 goals from them is a hat trick from Aguero. That's the point. That's why midfielders have been they've turned our heads and they've forced us into the transfer market. They forced us into early transfers that we haven't been comfortable with. It's led to a volatile market. The strikers haven't done that, and Aguero being missing is a factor behind that. Will he do it? He might do. He will get a hat trick. Of course he will. He's going to have a 20-point game week again. But is it going to have the impact that it's had in previous seasons? I don't think it will. I think
like a differential now, which is crazy.
He's definitely a differential in live teams. I think he's owned by maybe less than 5% or something. It might be higher now because he's played. But having Aguero as a differential, I can definitely see that argument.
Where it's going to be interesting as well is double game weeks. When City get a double game week, and we think it's going to come because of the EFL Cup, if United get to the final, then we're going to see Aguero come onto the menu because in a double game week situation with the triple captain, very, very tempting indeed. And so,
but then you're going to have the rotation issue, and as we saw with Liverpool last year, where basically the same players aren't going to play twice. Say they're still into the Champions League at that stage, and perhaps they're
out of the title race.
And they're out of the title race. Well, what are we going to see there? Well, I don't know if I couldn't say whether Aguero played twice.
We got to hope that a top 4 place is enough to keep him building a strong team. But
see that could be a season destroying move. Getting Aguero in for a double game week where he plays he plays one game, gets 2 points, misses the next easy one, and then De Bruyne and Sterling.
It's Andy Carroll all over again, Andy.
Yeah, it is, but we just don't know. So it's speculation.
No, I just think at the moment City assets off the menu. They're too risky. I like Sterling and Toure because they're cheaper and you can afford to gamble on them as differentials. But I think going to Aguero for a differential at the moment is just not going to happen.
I don't think Toure is a good choice, really. I mean, I did actually consider him last week, but it's one of those that do you really know that he's going to play? I think at the minute he's in. I think at the minute he's in the team, but I'm not. I think it's like with Giroud. I don't think you can be long term. I'm not convinced.
No, I think any City player there's doubt about, but with Gundogan out and Toure seems to be driving that team. He looks fit enough to play week in, week out. He won't because Pep doesn't like playing any player week in, week out. But I think he's as secure as Sterling, Probably De Bruyne is the most secure option in there, but he's too expensive. So I'm just saying that Sterling and Torre, you know what you're going to get. There's a risk whether they start, but they're 7-3 and 7-6. That is an outlay that you can do for a couple of weeks, and it's not going to cause you to create surgery in your team. Aguero and De Bruyne, you have to probably make more than one transfer to get them in. It's probably. I
almost want Aguero to go wild now just to see what the reaction would be.
It would change everything. It would. I'm not doubting that, but I don't know. While Ibra's being so consistent as well, you'll always think, well, I'm not going to get rid of Ibra. I'm not going to get rid of Costa. If those two dry up and Aguero goes mad, then that's a perfect storm where everything changes. But that's quite a big if, I think, especially with Penn's off the agenda. Next question, John T. What else have we got here?
Well, have a look at defenders, really. So, I mean, Hernan Red asked, we were talking about 3-5-2, but what about playing 4 at the back? Perhaps not every week, but every now and again. Because, this is another change as well. So we've got these flying fullbacks. This has been a gradual change over the last few seasons. So we've got midfielders playing as strikers. We've got defenders playing as wingers. So we've got the likes of Brunt. We've got Daniels, Walker, Rose. Got
Van Arnold, my favourite.
And we've got all of these players, and they're all somewhere around the 5-6 million mark. Now, they're really producing. We wouldn't think twice about getting them in if they were midfielders, but yet we do when they're defenders, despite the fact they actually can get more points from clean sheets if they're in a tight side, like, for example, Spurs. So having a look at it, all the matches, who's creating the most chances amongst the defenders? Well, look, it's that same list again: Klein, Walker, Van Aanholt. And then Christian Fuchs there. Now, if Leicester are going to turn their form around, Fuchs could be an option again.
Oh, don't come to me with Fuchs.
And then you've got Danny. But just as an example of that, they're actually kind of producing these underlying stats. And then you've got Daniels, and then you've got Baines bubbling away there as well. Now, Baines has got great fixtures.
Yeah, now Sir Leighton, now you're talking.
And so you've got all of these players, and I kind of see where he's coming from, really. And I do think that, the way that they're producing, Brunt, for example, he's doing really well, especially at home. But people are thinking, definitely going to get Phillips in. But they're not considering getting Brunt and McCauley. So they've got McCauley's.
No, I definitely have thought about that.
And Brunt and McCauley. And I know you were talking about getting Brunt in.
Yeah, no, I'm
McCauley. With West Brom's fixtures, you're basically getting, if you're not going to get Phillips, it's a very viable option, and play 4 at the back, because you've got a winger in defence who gets clean sheet points.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brunt seems to be cemented. His start seemed to be there.
Yeah.
Chadley hasn't convinced. He hasn't come back in as that midfield.
And Naum makes everything better as well. His midfield place.
I know that was amazing what happened last week with Naum when he come on bang on 30 minutes, got the clean sheet and picked up the 3 bonus as well. Did you see that?
Yes, and an FBL Virgin raised this question, Andy, didn't he? So,
yeah, he may have done.
Do we
want to spend any time on this?
We're not going to dwell on it. But the point I'll make here,
we've been asked not to.
Justice for George Friend. Justice for George Friend.
It's absolute. For me, I'm just flabbergasted that everyone reacted like it was some kind of new rule that's been introduced.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said.
What I would say is, why shouldn't Neom got bonus? Yeah. When he came on, West Brom didn't concede a goal. Perhaps that had something to do with Neom. Perhaps the fact that Neom was on the pitch helped them keep a clean sheet while he was on the pitch. He won 5 tackles, more than anyone else in the entire match, in the time he was on the pitch. That contributed to him getting bonus as well as the clean sheet. I think he probably deserved bonus.
I don't think that's the point, though. I think the point is if he come on like 10 seconds later, it'd have been marked on as 59 minutes. And
but he didn't.
One.
That's the point. He got
3 minutes.
Let's discuss this.
Whole 3 minutes.
I understand that, but he'd have got 1 point. It's just.
Let's move on. Let's move on.
We do have to move on, because when this was raised earlier, pretty much the universal thought from the rest of the community is don't even bother. It's a rule. It's in place. The rules adhered to. Move on.
I just thought
no, move on.
Let's talk more about Chris Brunt.
Honestly, the community has spoken on this, and it's like, let's not dwell on it.
No, absolutely. I think these defenders, though, this is another. If I was wildcarding and I was trying to create a differential squad now, I think going 4 at the back could be a way to, because I think you look at it and you've got Baines, you've got Van Aanholt, you've got Danny Rose, and I've just got Danny Rose in, and I think he's exceptional this season. I think he's now so important to them in attacking terms. What impressed me about Rose, and the reason why I've got him in, It's because he's taking free kicks and corners on the opposite side to Eriksen. So I've got the equivalent of a Brunt there in Danny Rose, plus more chance of a clean sheet. But Van Aanholt is a player that I wanted to get in a few weeks ago, and I couldn't because I realised I had 3 Sunderland players. How did that happen? And I missed Van Aanholt's points haul. I look at it again now. He's got Stoke at home. I'd love to get PVA in for that, and I can't. So there are really good options here. Baines' fixtures are good. Brunt's fixtures are good. There's choice here. And there isn't.
Bellerin as well, or Koscielny, or any of the players.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, Andy, your views on this, on an investment at the back? I mean, I think 3-5-2 is the right way to go, but I think 4 at the back is a good way of setting your team up now.
Yeah, I think 4-4-2 could work. It's just that none of us ever really want to try it because it's just not glamorous. It's not glamorous to have 4 defenders. But I looked at like the points per game, and someone like Rose is on like 5.1, and someone like Kane's 5.9 for like double the money nearly. So it's definitely. I really want Danny Rose. Anyone that's. It's a bit like Alonso earlier in the season. If you watch a Spurs game, you'll want Danny Rose. He's so far forward, and he's getting central as well. He's just crazy. And Spurs, I checked as well. Now Alderweireld's like back properly. Yeah. Like he's played 6 games at home and kept 5 clean sheets. And their home fixtures are so good coming up that it's just a banker.
And you look at Danny Rose, most goal attempts of any defender, and he's not getting them from set pieces. He's getting them from getting forward, and we know he can finish. But those taking set pieces is a big thing because Spurs have got good players to get on the end of set pieces. So I think he's a great option.
When I played my wild card a few weeks ago, I had a shot. I needed to get a Spurs player in. I looked at Alderweireld, I couldn't afford him, and it was between Walker and Rose. And I made a daft mistake getting Walker. I mean, he got suspended the next game, and then I got in Van Dijk and then Bellerin. So it's actually cost me a lot just not getting in Danny Rose in that week. And I looked at the stats, and he was quite closely matched with Walker. I mean, Walker was getting more assists and he's getting more crosses in, but Rose was getting more shots. He was certainly getting in the box more. But it was a very, very close call. Now, since in the last 4 or 5 weeks, he's gone steaming past Walker. And that's not just because Walker's missed a game. He's just getting further forward.
But haven't they played? They've moved to 3-5-2, haven't they? At least for
they
some
did
games.
that. They did that, but also Rose started taking set pieces, which he wasn't doing before. The other thing in favour of Rose is the ownership. Walker is the top owned defender in the game. Rose is way down. So you're almost getting a differential. And if you own Walker, you're not going to use a transfer to go Walker to Rose. You might do, but it's going to be probably 4th or 5th on your list of transfers to make. So all those teams above me with Walker probably aren't going to get Rose because they've probably got other things to do. They might do. The caveat is Rose is 2 bookings from a suspension. So we should mention that could happen. But then when that happens, you just get Ben Davies in, and you get Rose back for a cheaper price when you get. I don't think he's going to rise that much. I don't think he's going to go up 0.3, 0.4 in the next 5 or 6 weeks because of Walker's ownership, because so many people own him. Now I got it wrong. I got Toby in as well 4 or 5 weeks ago. Then he missed 2 games, so it cost me as well. I got the wrong decision, but I've hopefully made the right one now. So I mean, it's great options. So Andy, you're looking at him as well, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a way that I can get him in this week. It's probably going to take a hit, but I think it might even be worth it for him, to be honest. Had him for a lot last year when no one else was on him, and having him as a differential is really great, I think. But in terms of like 4-4-2, I think there's quite a few defensive options, and we might even be looking soon at getting rid of Alonso, I reckon. Possibly. Well,
this is it. Possibly. I mean, we should talk about this at this point, Jonty, shouldn't we? Because Aki has come back from Bournemouth. Granville had him in his team, and so he's had that problem. As soon as I saw that, I thought there's got to be a reason behind this. And then I was compounded by Pedro playing left wing back in the FA Cup as well. And then today, the Standard have said, okay, Alonso has been carrying a problem since he arrived at Chelsea. He's been playing with it. And now they're saying that Aki has come back because Conte is concerned about that being an ongoing problem. So Alonso could suddenly be an issue for us. I don't think he's a doubt for the weekend as yet. We have to wait to see what Conte says. But clearly, it seems there's speculation at least behind his fitness going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about Aki is he can play in a number of positions. So he can play in a back 3, back 2. He could be cover for Matic even, defensive midfield. That's a position he likes himself. But Conte has said that about his versatility, but he's also said he wants to try him out at left wing back. So he doesn't actually know whether he's going to be, an adequate deputy for Alonso, but he wants to try him out and he thinks he can be. So that's why he's brought
Yeah,
him.
I mean, I think it's all about it. I think there is something in this Alonso story.
And it does seem to be. I mean, the way, so there's something in that. There's some kind of injury. We're not saying he's going to be a doubt for this weekend at all, but it's just at some point he's going to need a rest. But all that adds up to Aki not being first choice. He's not saying I brought Aki in to be first choice. He's saying I brought him back to be a deputy for others.
Yeah, so, I don't think he's necessarily suited to the wing-back role because he's not. So if he's not as attacking as a
no. So I mean, one of the first rules of fantasy football really is get nailed on players. But then again, he's so cheap. It just depends whether you want to get. Now Chelsea play Hull next. So some people who've got Costa, Alonso, and Aki, they might be thinking, I wouldn't mind getting Hazard in as well for that. Well, you can't basically, or maybe take a punt on Pedro, who's got a phenomenal home record. I was looking into. I did a feature for the site called Chasing Tails. It was something one of our regulars, F Society, coined this phrase. So I was looking at whether Chasing Tails was worth it, and looking back on it, Hazard really wasn't. After his amazing Everton game, he got 19 points. Well, Pedro got 16 points in that match, but no one bothered with him. And Costa actually got more points over the next 4 game weeks than Hazard, and there were plenty of other players who got more points. So that's what I mean. Is we could be avoiding players we want, and that Chelsea game is important. But Aki destroys a decision. Could I get Hazard in? Well, if you've already got 3, Chelsea, you can't.
Yeah, and I've seen it with Sunderland. I mean, I've only got myself to blame. I invested heavily in Sunderland, quite rightly, like everybody else, and I shut off the Patrick Van Aanholt. I mean, I'm not going to do it with Chelsea. No, you're absolutely right. I think Pedro could be one. Downgrading Hazard to Pedro is an option that is always going to be open to me, and that's a nice option to have. I don't want to ruin that by getting 3 Chelsea players elsewhere. So I think it's an issue that if you're considering having Aki and Alonso, it could be effective. Maybe they're going to rotate perfectly, but as I see it, I think Aki's going to come on for Alonso with 20 minutes to go, and vice versa. So you're not going to be able to have that perfect situation where one's playing and the other one's not coming on. Yeah. It's
doubt. It's question marks. It's not great news. But it's annoying because Bournemouth's fixtures are great, and people like Granville, they got him in for that quite rightly, and that's annoying. That annoys me this season because that's good fantasy management. Getting Aki in, looking at that, he's scoring goals, he's getting clean sheets, and Bournemouth have got a great run. Get him in, and then the rug gets whipped away from you, and I think that's it's just really annoying. It's just
we didn't know the recall clause was in until Christmas, and then a week later, it's happened.
It's massively annoying.
Okay, we've got a question on Hazard, haven't we? Or from Bleach about is it time to ditch him? Is that correct?
Well, I mean, Bleach, it's exactly. So it's that question. Isn't it? Time to ditch Hazard. Now, as I said about that Chasing Tails article I did, Hazard hasn't actually been the best Chelsea option. Costa has, and in fact, Pedro has been a pretty good differential as well. But look at the fixtures. So he's got Leicester away, and we know Hazard's terrible. He's not great away. This is bear in mind we've had this on the site before.
We said this, and everyone went mad when we said that.
I'm not talking real life Hazard here. He looks great whenever he plays. He could play on a completely muddy pitch in 1972. And he'd still look fantastic, as George Best did. But he is not. He just, as a fantasy asset, he is just not doing it away from home. So he's got Leicester away. Maybe he'll get something. Not sure. Hull at home. That's fantastic. That's Hazard territory. Liverpool away. Not so. Arsenal at home. Maybe. Burnley away. Not quite sure. And I had a look into the figures, his underlying stats, and what was going on really. And it was pretty much basically. He's absolutely goal mad at home, absolutely shooting whenever he can. But he could tell he reins that in away from home. There's a lot of players do away from home, but him in particular. But he's got assists away from home. So he could tick along nicely away with that chance creation.
Yeah, but that's the danger, isn't it? That he does enough to stay in our team.
It's it. And that's why I got rid of him. And I got rid of him because he had 2 away games, one of which was Spurs. So that was... And I got rid of him for Phillips, essentially, and Lallana as part of a 2-free transfer move. So I feel happy with that. And Phillips already repaid that. So I don't mind if he scores against Leicester now.
Okay, Granville, you've still got him. What's your views on this? Are you looking at Hazard as someone who's hanging on for you?
Yeah, I guess so. The thing is, I got rid of Costa a few weeks ago when he was doing okay, and then he got suspended, didn't he? And I got rid of him. So I do think that you ought to have a Chelsea attacker somewhere. And who else is there? I mean, you can only really get Costa or Hazard. Willian is done okay. I think maybe he's overachieving slightly. And Pedro, in and out the team, not convinced that he's a player that you should have in your team.
Well, this is it. With Pedro and Willian, there's always that rotation risk. I think Pedro is first choice. I think we've seen that. He came back in at Spurs. Willian got benched. And, mate, but the danger now is Pedro could even be tried at left wing back as well.
The problem with Pedro is the minutes he gets. It's not just whether he starts, it's whether he finishes.
He's off on the hour mark, yeah.
Yeah, so you just know when the board comes up that you think, oh, it's going to be him. It's like the Walcott.
It's Walcott, absolutely. And it's a horrible feeling when you've got that player and it gets to 60 minutes and he's done nothing and you think,
it's awful. And had that with, was it Lillard? We had it with loads of players this season. And I just don't want to have, to be thinking about that. So
you're holding at the moment and looking at that whole game in particular, which is exactly what I'm doing.
I'm not really looking at anything, to be honest. I just think I can't. There's no one else. I mean, unless I upgraded to Sanchez, there's no one else that I'd rather be in that. He's the only expensive midfielder that I want. Really, I don't want to get rid of him because I can see, they're going to get penalties, and he will get involved again in games. He's just gone through a fairly dry spell.
Yeah. Okay, Andy, you've got Hazard as well. Is he clinging to that spot, or are you holding firm too?
Yeah, I don't think I'm kind of attached to him. I'm going to keep the Hull. I don't think there's unless you really need the Spurs player in the Spurs midfielder, maybe you can make an argument for that. But I want to keep him. Even over the last 4 games where he hasn't looked great, he's still scored 5 points per game on average, and just under that since his big haul in 19. So he's not been the worst player. I think he could do damage against Hull. And after that, I'll probably look at getting rid. But they do have some okay fixtures afterwards. I think something like a Man United midfielder I'm going to look at after Hull, because then Man United play Hull and then they have a good run of fixtures again. So for now I'm keeping. I don't know if there's a player that I really want in before Hazard plays Hull enough, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this is it for me. It's kind of, I look at that whole fiction, it's too dangerous to get rid. And also because I play in 5 in midfield, I can probably afford, I need to keep the heavy hitters. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Sanchez and Hazard, as long as they don't go on an 8-match dry spell, I think they're always going to be in my team in the 3-5-2 because I can swap around the other 3 and jump on bandwagons. And I've got, with Defoe, I've got money to spend in defence. So I think I'm all right holding them. And I think, if anything, Hazard's going to become a kind of a differential with the teams around me because so many have done what Jonty has done, downgraded to Phillips and then upgraded elsewhere. Particularly with Ali and Ericsson coming to the fore, I think a lot of people have gone Hazard out. Or Mane has been the main benefactor, main loss there. His transfers have gone straight to Tottenham midfielders. But interesting to see what Hazard does, at the weekend. But he's got that whole fixture to follow, and I think most people who've got him are going to hold him to that. Jonty, are you worried about that? I mean, what Chelsea cover you got going into that fixture?
Well, I've got Costa and Alonso. I'll be looking at captaining Costa that week. So it doesn't worry me. If I didn't have Costa or Hazard, I'd be really worried. But so that doesn't worry me. So what's Hazard going to be doing? Who's going to be assisting him? Who's he going to be assisting? It's likely going to be Costa, who's looking still really dangerous. He's not looking like he's waning at all. So
the only thing with Costa, where I think Hazard has got the higher ceiling. I think Hazard can get 15 to 20 points. Costa has never got more than 12.
Well,
that's the thing that
I think the thing is with Hazards for non-owners like me, and indeed for other owners, you look at that whole game, you think, wow, that's great, and then you look at Liverpool away and Arsenal at home and then Burnley away. And a lot of people are going to be starting to get rid. So am I really going to be wanting to spend that transfer on getting a player in who could get a really big haul at that game, but probably won't for the next? Or get a player in, like, for example, Ericsson or Ali. I believe they're Sunderland when Chelsea played Liverpool. Or players like that. Or Pogba even as well. So who can get me over that 3-week block, much more points than Hazard get me at Hull. But he's a great captain differential, I think. I mean, I say differential, he's owned by a third of teams, but I think in terms of active teams, there's a few who've got rid. Certain places, your rivals might not have him.
Yeah, no, the other thing I'm worried about with Chelsea, though, is as they get nearer to the title, are we going to see what happened with Leicester in that suddenly Conte goes, right, let's just win games 1-0 now. That's, and to be honest, they're kind of doing that away
Yeah,
from
he's
home.
got the defence to do it, hasn't he? So.
Yeah.
I think at home not, but away, yeah. And that's the thing with Hazard for me. If you've got a 10 million player who's not like Sanchez is performing away really well, and he's ticking over nicely at home as well. So I think Sanchez v Hazard, Sanchez wins for me completely.
Yeah.
But they're both good. I'm just not saying Hazard's a bad player. Last time I said Hazard, I said another player's better than Hazard. I got abused for saying that Hazard's bad. I'm not. He's a great player. It's just I think they're maybe slightly better.
But sometimes, like Coutinho in the past, we're almost seduced by the fact that they are such a great player, such a lovely player. You think they're more effective than they are, and that's the danger of Hazard. We saw it last season, didn't we? I tried him 3 or 4 times, didn't work. I wanted it to, and I'm slightly worried that I'm wanting it to work now, and I'm convincing myself that whole fixture is vital. He's got to return for me in that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's talk Giroud, shall we, Jonty?
Well, yeah. I didn't even put any notes for this really because it's more like an opinion thing really about whether you think he's going to start really because we know he's good. We know he's getting the goals in. He's starting. He scores. He completely turned around the Arsenal's game against Bournemouth. Obviously, he took some time out to do a celebration rather than get the winning goal. But yeah, Bojack asks, is Giroud worth the risk? Talking rotation there. And Jack the Cat asks, with Giroud's recent starts and goals, is he now a real option?
Well, Granville nearly got him in. So
I've had him in already this season. Got rid of him, but I got him in. I timed him for his injury. So if he hadn't got injured, I'd probably still have him instead of Benteke. So I'd have got those, but it wasn't to be. Yeah, he is. If he's playing, he's playing Swansea away next. There is that risk though.
Yeah, well, the way I look at it is that Wenger has said he wants to play. He'll play Giroud against teams that defend deep. And you look at the fixtures they got at home, and it's Watford and Burnley. Those 2 teams are definitely going to do that. Whereas Swansea would be a fixture he'd normally play Sanchez through the middle, Walcott perhaps, but Walcott doesn't look like he's going to be fit. He's still no noises from Wenger to say that he's definitely returning. So there's a doubt there. So Giroud could play the next 3. Granville, you were looking at him, and you say you regret it. Are you going back?
Well, I regret it. I only really regret it now because he scored 15 points and Bellerin scored zip. That's what I regret.
So you're not looking again,
and now the fact that Bellerin has got a potential injury, that's why I regret it. I think long term, I don't think he's a great choice, but yeah, definitely over the next 3 or something. Whilst Walcott, I don't know what Walcott just drives me nuts because he's such a great asset to have when he's fit. He's just unreliable.
Yeah,
I think with Giroud, I think he's another one that is a bit unreliable as well because I haven't really had any luck with Giroud over the years. It's a bit like Lukaku. He's one of those that when I do get him in, he does nothing, and I struggle to score points, and then I get rid of him, and then he goes wild again. So
yeah, there were always those games where we're tempted to put the armband on him. I remember that week where I think he was a popular captain choice and he got sent off, and he is
in that week.
Yeah. Andy, your views on Giroud? Are we too settled in our front lines to even consider him?
Well, not necessarily. Obviously, it depends who you've got. Like for me, I've got a Benteke and Carroll kind of 2-shaped holes coming up. So I've looked at him. I'm a little bit worried, but because I thought about him. I didn't think about him before, but I know people were saying before that he was going to play when Walcott was injured because he'd come on a couple of bench appearances. But Walcott came straight back in the team. The difference is this time he's actually played 90 minutes 3 times in a row now, and he's doing well. And Wenger said that he needs to play those that are in form. Obviously, he could go against that. But I think with the fixtures, was it Swansea, Burnley, Hull, and Watford at home, all of them at home apart from Swansea, I just think it might be worth the risk. Walcott was originally supposed to be back straight away almost, and he's now missed 3 games, and there's still no good news about him. So who knows how long he's going to be out for. And Sanchez has done well, and they've done well as well. Bournemouth, was a bit of a strange game, but they won the 2 games before that with him in the team. So I think I'm going to go for him. Just because the fixtures are so good, I think it's worth the risk. And if it does go wrong, there's an easy downgrade to Defoe, who's been doing all right. And if you can swing $1 million, then it's an upgrade to Lukaku. So maybe just have that in mind if you bring him in, that there may be a need to get rid of him in a few weeks. But yeah, I think I'm going to opt for him.
And he's biting, Jonty. Interesting. Do you think there's anything, Jonty, in the theory that Sanchez and Giroud, bit of a falling out, and Sanchez doesn't like being out on the flank? He wants to get back in that central role, or do you think that's just paper talk?
Sanchez just wants to play. I don't know. He just looks. Sanchez basically wants to spend his days training, playing football. And
he said playing golf then.
Playing golf and spending time off looking at his Instagram, walking his dogs, and that's it.
Yeah, in the Bournemouth game,
he didn't care about playing out on the wing.
Yeah, exactly. In the Bournemouth game, he kept getting annoyed with all his teammates. Like he kept moaning at them. That did not stop him playing the same he plays in each game, week in, week out. So
classic team player.
Yeah.
But he needs to be in the centre, I think. I think really to get the most out of him, he needs to be playing either behind a striker or as a striker.
This is it. I mean, we were kind of spoilt with Sanchez over the first 17 game weeks. We saw him in that role, and for me, he was essential in that role. He was the only asset I would say I would give that label to as essential. We're nervous about doing that with anyone. Now on the left wing, suddenly I'm like, okay. And Giroud, he is tempting, but I'm holding him, no doubt about it. Sanchez is still very, very important to my team, but I would like him to be back in the centre.
Yeah, it would be better, but since that haul against West Ham, obviously he's not come close to it. But I'm just looking now; he's only blanked in one game since then, and they've played City away, Everton away, so not the greatest fixtures either. And so, yes, I'd like him back as a striker. With the fixtures coming up, there's no need to get rid of Sanchez or worry. I don't think.
Okay, let's talk Dele Alli, Jonty.
Well, yeah, I mean, odd job left. Was he odd job? No, he is odd job left. He's called. Yeah, it's not a typo. Is it too late to get Ali? Surely unsustainable goal scoring rate. He says. Let's remind people that's 6 shots on target and 6 goals. Yeah. So let's look at the fixtures. Got West Brom at home. That's could be. Never know. Man City away. Don't know what's going to happen there. Sunderland away. That looks great. That looks Dele Alli territory. And then Middlesbrough at home. And then Liverpool away.
Is it Dele Alli territory now, is it? Okay.
Well, a rubbish team away against Dele Alli.
It's Dele Alli territory.
It's Dele Alli territory. So, I mean, having a look, last 4 game weeks, yeah, we've seen that. So he's had the shots on target. He's actually 7 goals from 8 shots on target. But, he's been getting the shots inside the box. So he's been getting many more goal attempts, I think. And I think he's got more in him there. But the crucial thing with Ali is so clinical. He's had 4 big chances, and he's burying all of those chances. Unlike we saw with Ibrahimovic earlier in the season when he went on that terrible goal drought. I don't know. When I was looking into that Chasing Tails feature again, and this was something that Jay in his interview brought up as well. There's just a feeling that there is slightly you've missed the boat, and you've missed. At least if you got him in after that first double-digit point haul, then you're laughing because you've got those 2 in the bank. But now, I don't know. It's a great play to get.
I read that. I didn't agree with that. I think there's a little bit of bias in what he said there because he's got Harry Kane up front. And if I was a Harry Kane owner, I'd be going, no, I don't fancy Ali. He can't keep it up. Of course I would. Because you want to think that, Kane will do it. And Kane will do a job. But I just think, if you don't have any Tottenham asset, you would jump on this Ali bandwagon because you're going to get a price rise at the very least. And would he score against West Brom and Man City? He probably could. There's no in the form he's in and the way Spurs are playing with confidence, they can score in both those games. And at the moment, if Spurs score, Ali's in the hat, I would say.
I'm looking at that Sunderland game. So in 3 game weeks' time, I definitely want one of Ali, Eriksen or Kane.
Well, that's Ali territory.
It's Ali territory.
Yeah.
But Eriksen as well. I mean, you've got Eriksen, and he's been doing all right for you. So there's the odd game where he doesn't score now. So I was saying, I've had enough of a while ago these midfielders who do nothing and then get the occasional haul. Well, he's actually proving to be quite consistent as well.
Yeah, Eriksen is a different player at the moment.
And over the last 4 game weeks, he's created 16 chances there. No other Spurs players anywhere near that. So basically, if there's going to be a goal, it's going to be Eriksen's going to be involved.
He picks up bonus as well when he gets.
And he picks up bonus.
Yeah, he's in that same bracket as Özil. That when he gets an assist, he's going to get bonus with it.
Well, he's performing like Özil last season, as in Özil had
he's on that kind of run.
Yeah.
That's true actually because he didn't do anything. I'm just looking now, and I thought he didn't do anything for the first 12 games of the season. a couple of assists.
Ironically, it was while he was
And
negotiating his contract, apparently.
Oh, was it? Right.
Yeah, it was.
Chelsea when he scored. That's his first goal when he scored against Chelsea, and he's just gone on this long run since then. And I don't think no player is going to score points every game, but he is actually. I think he's doing better now than he's done in all his seasons, his 3 previous seasons, in terms of consistency, especially with the assists. It's just, those 2 assists that he gave to Ali against Chelsea are just like absolutely beautiful, just
highest
perfect.
quality, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, we know his free kicks as well. He takes corners. He's got that threat from range. I think Eriksen at the moment is, and I think if I was going to choose between the two, I would go Eriksen long term. But it's just this Ali form. You've got Kane, Granville. So you sticking with Kane presumably and not looking.
Yeah, I am. But I have to admit though, ask yourself this: if you had a wild card now, and you wanted to get a Spurs player, they're playing West Brom at home, so you'd want a Spurs player. Which one would you get in? You could only have one. Which one would you have? And I think it'd probably be Ali. I think that's one that you would have to have because of the run of form. Even I'd probably pick him ahead of Eriksen.
I wouldn't. I think I would go Eriksen still. I've got them both now, but I still think Eriksen. It depends. If I could get Ali in, I suppose I could transfer him into Eriksen once they were identical price. I think Eriksen over the season will outscore him. I think Ali has got 10 more goals in him, but I think Eriksen's got 10 more assists and 6 or 7 more goals. I think there's more to his game than Ali has got. And also, there's
surprised if Ali gets another 10 goals.
Yeah, but the other thing is that Ali has done well since they changed the system and since he's been playing with Kane in that role, and Kane's been letting him go beyond him. That could be tweaked again. Ali could end up in the double pivot in about 5 or 6 weeks. We just don't know. Eriksen will always be their creator. He'll always be on set pieces. He'll always be doing what he's doing now, I think. I think Ali's role could possibly change. It definitely has. That is why he's suddenly clicked, because he's getting into the box more, and Kane he's dropping deeper and letting him do it.
Yeah.
And it's down to this new system that they're swapping in and out of. And just as it's happened, it can revert. So that's another reason why I just think I favour Eriksen over Ali. Andy, you've gone the other way. You feel the other way though, don't you? You really think Ali's the better option?
I kind of agree with you that long-term Eriksen might win out. I just think Ali's in such good form, right? In fact, there was an interesting, a quote, I think it was John Terry's dog on Johnsy's article about chasing tails. He said, where's the line between chasing tails and buying someone that's in form?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty close. And I think we look at Ali's braces and just think there's no way he can keep up getting braces. And he can't keep up getting braces, but that doesn't mean he's going to stop scoring altogether.
Yeah,
which I think is the key point. I think he is going to keep doing well. He's just not going to score a brace 3 weeks in a row for sure.
I think with that Hazard example, when he got his 19 points against Everton, everyone wanted to get him in, and I think that's the example of where that line is between chasing tails, and because Hazard's next few fixtures after that were actually not very good. So everyone got him in for those not very good fixtures, and he didn't perform. And then his fixtures got better, and then he started getting a few more points in. So that's where that line is. Now, Ali's a tricky one because the fixtures are quite kind of mixed, really. I don't think the next two are great, but then they get better with Sunderland away. Ali territory, as we said. So
exactly.
The thing is, going back to that Hazard thing,
that's the line, really.
Going back to that Hazard thing, I jumped on that, and I'll defend that because I watched that Everton game, and I looked at that and thought, he is so good in this match. There is no defence who can stop Hazard in this kind of form and this kind of mood. It was like the Vardy performance last season where we both jumped on him. That's how I felt having watched that Everton game. And yes, he didn't produce in the next 3 or 4 games, and he's never been, never really got close to that kind of haul since. But I've got to say, it was so seductive watching that match, watching him dismantle Everton. I know Everton were poor on the night, but I just think there was no reason to look at the fixtures and go, oh no, call your boots. So that
I think that experience with Hazard has made me more cautious, and that's why I haven't immediately got Ali in this week. Although 3 braces in a row is hard to ignore, but that's why I haven't, because I've been a bit more cautious. The other thing that's made me a little bit cautious, and this is something the Ibrahimovic one, where the first 2 weeks he was great, must have, got him in game week 2, and then barely anything. But his fixtures were great. His underlying stats were great. The form was great. Literally everything about him was great. There was no reason why he wasn't doing it, but he wasn't. And that, for me, and I think for perhaps other managers as well, had a real, had a really large effect on the way we think about it. Because what do you trust? If you can't trust form, fixtures, underlying stats, what's left?
Yeah, but this is where the luck factor comes in, and it wasn't falling for Ibrahimovic, and maybe that applies to Hazard, and maybe it's going to apply to Ali in the next few weeks as well. But from my point of view, I didn't hesitate because I looked at it and went, I've got 3 transfers. I can get Lallana out for Ali. Maybe that's a wrong move, but I looked at Liverpool's fixtures, and they're tougher than Spurs'. And I noticed that Jay is actually holding Lallana, and so it is. The argument about you look at Ali's fixtures and go, he can't keep it up. Well, you could look at Lallana and go, well, he can't keep it up as well. You can use that argument there. So it's form for me. It's just, I look at it and go, if Spurs are going to score right now, there's probably a 50% chance it's going to be Ali. And there's probably a good chance that Eriksen's setting it up. And I think they've got the confidence to go to Man City and win that game. Why not? City aren't convincing.
Well, I think you've got Rose, Eriksen and Ali.
Yeah.
So that's a massive chicken-sized egg in basket situation.
It is.
So you are relying. I mean, Spurs fans will tell you are relying on Spurs now every week.
I know it's not. It feels a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm trying to play the game more aggressively this year and going. There's a team that's won 5. They've won 5 in a row. Confidence, form throughout the team. You're looking at Eriksen, Ali, and Rose, and they're probably 3 of the top players on form at the moment. So I've just got them in and hope it comes off. I may have made an error, but it's the way I want to play it.
Yeah, I think actually, if I look at their next 2, West Brom, you think that's where they're going to get the points, but I actually think that's going to be trickier than the game against City.
I can see Ali getting something with City.
They have a problem breaking down teams. They've had it all season. They played Hull and they scored late on, and then the floodgates open. But they do have problems at home against teams with packed defences. And how are West Brom going to play that game? They're going to pack the defence.
Yeah, and also Tottenham can go 2-0 up, and Pulisic is still not going to come out. We know he'll still carry on defending. So it's not going to be 4-5-0. It's going to be a 1-0 win for Spurs, probably. Yeah. I'll take that on the chin, I guess. But I
can actually see this season, the way it's City playing, that Spurs could win that game 3-0. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say this, but I think that City is so disorganised at the back that Spurs can take advantage of it.
As we saw Chelsea did. And Spurs took advantage of Chelsea. So in turn, Spurs on paper should be able to get 2 or 3 goals at City. Indeed, yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's do the game week preview, shall we? We'll go to Andy first for the clean sheets. I think.
Oh, I'm glad I get to go first because I don't think there's that many this week. Hang on, Spurs.
There you go.
I've got Phillips. I'm not that happy about having to play him, but I'm not expecting anything from him. 2 points.
This is it. I look at it and think I didn't get Phillips this week, and with this fixture in mind, I can't see West Brom posing too much threat. But I don't know. The Spurs defence, trusting them. I'd like to think they are solid now. I think hopefully that'll be a 1-0 win. So I think that's a good one. I think that's fair enough. John T, your clean sheet.
I'm going to go for another 0-0 between Manchester United and Liverpool. I think Mourinho.
Oh, are you?
I think that's what he does against these teams like this, rivals like this. He just brings his bus along. There you go. And we saw it. We've seen it so many times. So it's a bit of a risky one, but that's what I think.
I don't agree, actually. I don't think I think United are going to win that.
Yeah, I think this is a time for Mourinho to go for the win there, surely. But it could easily be.
That's fine if he's got Man United. Man United get the clean sheet. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what Man United are the ones on. Yeah, for the clean sheet. Yeah, I'm not saying Liverpool especially, but I think it will be 0-0. But I think Man U. That's my clean sheet there. I don't think Liverpool will get past. You never know.
Looking at this is quite tough, but we'll go to Granville first to see if he leaves me one. Go on, who's your clean sheet?
I think there's a more obvious 0-0 game than United Liverpool. I think Watford against Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
I mean, Watford are really struggling for players. They've got loads of players out, and Middlesbrough aren't the most
exciting attack-minded team.
Well, they're not really going to take that many risks. I knew that game they played against Palace was it during Christmas. Was that the game when they played? No, it was against Leicester, I think.
Yes, I had Chambers in there.
I saw the first 5 minutes of that game. I knew it was going to be 0-0.
I know. I had
when they get friended.
I was watching it going, after 5 minutes, I was like, well, this is booked in. As long as he doesn't go off after 59 minutes, my clean sheet is booked in. And
Absolutely.
lo and
You
behold,
got Chambers, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just so obvious. But I think I don't think Watford are good enough at the minute to score against them, so I think that'll be a 0-0.
Yeah,
So I'll say that Watford will get the 0.
I mean, Burnley, Southampton for me is another one. I look at it and go, Saints attack at the moment. Southampton, what is going on there? Is it just fatigue? I guess it is, but they're in a slide. And Burnley so strong at home. Tom Heaton, got to play him. He's going to do. That's a clean sheet, isn't it, Jonty?
Yeah, I would think so as well. I'm going to play Heaton. Well, I haven't got much choice really. I've got Pickford as well, the goalie. So by default, yes, I think so as well. I think part of the with Southampton is something they have every year, is that every other team wants all their players. So there's unsettled, and there's Jose Font. He might not be playing. He could be on a move, and so it's a tough time for Southampton, the transfer window.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not good. So I'll go for that. Fancy Island risks. Jonty, you start us off because you've got your player already sorted out, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got Ross Barkley. So, okay, it's a risk. And so that's what a Fancy Island risk should be. We know that City concede a lot. And I was having a look at midfield options just the last couple of game weeks, and a surprise name at the top in terms of shots on target and doing well in chance creation is Ross Barkley. So Everton have got a good run of fixtures. There's the risk there. Will he start? And it's against City.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's in a new role. He's getting more of the ball, it seems. He's enjoying his football again. He's a player I got in earlier in the season because he started the season strongly and he had good fixtures, got him in, didn't work. It was an absolute disaster. I think, is he destined to be that player forever for us? This is it, where he always looks like he's got that moment in the season where we look at him. He's always going to be priced in a 7 million, 7.5 bracket to tempt us, but he's never going to quite reach the levels we expect from him. I don't know. I have to see. But it's a good Fantasy Island risk. Andy, who have you got lined up?
Diamande for Hull, new manager now. I think they're playing Bournemouth at home. It's a risk. I don't expect Hull to do much, but I think if they're going to beat someone, I think they could beat Bournemouth at home.
Well, Jay will be delighted if he comes in. Is he going to play?
Exactly, yeah.
But don't you fancy Hernandez more? He scored in the cup and he's their top striker. They're on paper their top striker.
If he starts, this is it. He's easing him back in, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with Diamande. Okay. I'm not necessarily expecting the whole player to score.
Yeah, they're both good risks then.
Granville, your risk.
I'm going to go with Peter Crouch.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought if we'd had the podcast last week, I'd have gone Peter Crouch. Honestly.
Absolutely.
Because I think they're struggling. They've been struggling up front, really, Stoke to get. They're Bonnie and Diouf, and they've really, really struggled with that position. And I think now, he's come back and he's sort of the Mr. Reliable.
He's got 2 in 2, new contract. They're looking at Berahino, though, aren't they? So maybe that, long term, that's going to happen. Is Berahino finally going to get a move? But yeah, I think a good option for this game week because they're away at Sunderland. You've got to think they're going to score there. Sunderland don't have Kone in defence, so they're weakened. I'm hoping for goals there, and I'm hoping Defoe delivers.
But where else? I mean, the thing is that Diouf and Bonnie are both away, aren't they?
I think Crouch is definitely going to start, and it's a good risk to take. And for a third striker, if you're going 3-5-2. Looks to be a go-to option with Barnes at the moment. Would be the way to go. Jonty, your risk.
I already told you it's Barkley.
Okay, you've already done yours. Granville confused me totally. It's my turn. I'm going to go Januzaj in the same match. I think he's going to come back into the side. He's the creative force there. He set up Defoe at Burnley. I think if Sunderland are going to score goals, Januzaj needs to be performing. They're not going to keep goals out the other end. They've got to score 2 or 3 to beat Stoke. They've got to look at that as a must-win game. So I think Januzaj is a good risk to take. I wouldn't put him in the FBL lineup, maybe.
Has he actually scored a goal this season?
No, not yet.
I don't recall.
No, not at all. But he's setting things up. I think he's got, he's a player well as a United fan. He's going in my FanDuel team for a start because I think, he's 6 million in that game. So if you're playing a weekly game, Januzaj looks good, I think. But as a risk, I think he epitomises it. It is risky, but I think Sunderland have got to get a couple of goals to beat Stoke. And I think he's going to have something to do with it. So that's what I'm going with. Let's do our transfers and our captains. I'm coming to you, Andy, first. Did you have 1 free transfer or 2?
Yeah, just the 1. But my team, I think, needs a makeover, although I hear there might be snow over your way. in England this week. So I don't know. But yeah, I've got Carroll. I want to get rid of Benteke, even if he's fit. I think I want rid of him. Sigurdsson's not a great option. I've got Mkhitaryan, who I think he's going to start, but it is a bit like like Pedro and stuff, that he's coming off at like 60, 70 minutes, which is a bit annoying. So I don't know. I want to take a hit to get Ali in, and I want to upgrade Benteke to Giroud or Lukaku. So I might change 2 or 3 players, bring in someone like Barnes for Carroll to free up some money.
So you're going to take a hit for Ali, are you?
I'm possibly going to take a -8 this week. Yeah.
Blimey.
To get him.
It's not going into your territory here.
Yeah, but it's to get rid of Carroll, Benteke, and say Sigurdsson for Ali, Giroud, and a bench fodder, basically. Maybe I'll have to see. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. Probably an 8-point hit to kind of make over my team. And I think they're transfers for the longish term. Giroud might not work out, but he can be swapped if needed.
And captain?
I'm tempted by Ibrahimovic. In the last 9 game weeks, he's averaged 9 points a game, and that can't be sniffed at. But Sanchez has Swansea, and he's been doing so well away that he's currently my captain.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a popular choice. Granville, your captain and your transfers.
I think my captain's got to be Ibrahimovic. I can't
in the Liverpool game. You think?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to go for him. I'm going to go for it. I just fancy them, and it's the last game as well. It's televised. I don't think I can resist this one now. The obvious one would be Kane at home to West Brom, but as I said, I don't think it's as obvious as people make out.
Yeah, and he's blanked in the last 3, isn't he, at home? So
yeah. I think Sigurdsson, they'll look at him. He did actually get an assist last week. It feels like a bit of a luxury transfer out. And I've got much more pressing things because I've got Holebas who is marked. I mean, he should play, but I'm not sure about it. I've got Ake and I've got Bellerin, so I've got trouble at the back. And so Carroll might have to stay, and I might have to spend points just sorting out my back 5 again. I don't think I've ever spent so many transfers on my defence as I have this season.
You've just been hitting the wrong.
I did, yeah. I just been yeah. But
the thing is, Carroll has got Palace at home. That's not a bad fixture to keep him for, to be honest. So I think you're all right there. I think you're fine.
It's just whether I actually get in, someone like Ali or Ericsson to complement that, for Carrick, because I'd have to downgrade Carroll for say Crouch or Barnes, probably Crouch, and downgrade Bellerin, I guess. But I don't think it's possible actually without spending 8 points. I don't particularly want to do that now.
All these points being spent, John T. Are you going to tell me you're spending points as well?
No. I mean, I've got Stanislas in. Last week I took.
So you're done and dusted.
Yeah, I took advantage of getting rid of Capu finally, and I've got rid of Shan this week. Or Can, however you pronounce it. He is bench fodder really now, and so I've got Stanislas in. I think Stanislas has got a great fixture against Hull, and he did some serious damage against them earlier in the season. So yeah, that's my move, and I'm going to bench one of Benteke or Phillips, probably Phillips. I think just the way Spurs are really good at home defensively, and the way West Brom play against the big sides there. And captain has to be Sanchez away to Swansea.
It looks that way. Sanchez for me as well. I can't look beyond him really. I think there's going to have to be goals in that for Arsenal. They can't afford to drop any more points. They've got to score. Sanchez is going to be central to it. I think won't be central figure perhaps. That will be Giroud, but I think Sanchez is unavoidable for captain. And I've done my transfers already. The Spanish Dave went out for Danny Rose, and that allowed me to go Lallana to Ali and jump on that bandwagon. And I did them early. It was a risk because there was cup games to go. But I'm okay with that. I didn't take a hit. I had 2 free transfers, and so I moved quickly for it. It was aggressive, but let's see if it pays off. I think it'll be all right. I think it'll be fine. I like having those 2 Tottenham players in their midfield while they're on this run of form, but we'll see what happens. The West Brom fixture might change my mind a bit. I think you're all right. I think it'll be a 1-0, and I don't. I think I might end up with low returns. We'll have to see. Okay, Fanjul, news of a development there. We're going to do a league next week, aren't we, John T?
Yeah, this is a bit of a first. I think first for them, or first for us with them. We're going to do a 4-game week league. So there'll be prizes. It's free to enter, by the way. So no catches there. You just enter, and then so each week there'll be prizes for the top players, and then overall as well. They're going to count up the best 3 game week scores, and then there'll be a kind of overall table for that, and so there's prizes for that as well. So
yeah, and we're allowed to win the prizes.
Brings a bit of that familiar kind of multi-game week league format that FPL managers are used to a kind of a weekly format. So that is quite interesting.
Yeah, and we'll be following that on there. And our own cup goes to the last 16 this weekend. That's back after the break, and Torres Magic is out, isn't he? So no representatives in that now. It's going to be a new name on the cup for sure. So we'll be following that next week. And I think we're going to spruce up the Scoutcast as well. I think we're going to move away from doing Google Hangouts, and we're going to be having a new look to it. See if I can get that organised for next week. I wanted to start the new year of it, but I'm certainly going to try for next week. So this might have a new look next week. We'll all have the beards still, but there'll be something else going on around it. We'll see. Maybe some fancy graphics. Your goals imminent table may get actually shown.
Wow!
We can actually service it. Not only
double our figures next week.
We should get a live orchestra.
We can have a fanfare when it comes on. So not only can you go on about it endlessly, we can actually see it as well. It's going to be
can't wait.
Can I make a request that it replaces me? I could just put a board out in front of my screen, and you can
goals imminent table to replace.
I don't want to be around when Joggsy's like talking about his goals imminent table.
With a full orchestra in Technicolor.
Well, he didn't mention it tonight. I've just fed him the line there.
I haven't mentioned it. I'm not gonna mention it tonight.
We got through the Scoutcast, so I mentioned it. Then till the very end, I had to bring it up. It's a good night for me.
Good night.
Good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night, all.